This is E&P Reports from Editor and Publisher Magazine, the authoritative voice of news media since 1884, serving newspapers, broadcasts, digital, and all multimedia news publishing. And hi once again, I'm Mike Linder, publisher of E&P Magazine Quick Housekeeping. Listening to us on whatever flavor of podcast channel you like, please follow us. Watching us on our YouTube channel, you will click the little subscribe button below, hit the bell to the right. You'll get an update each and every time we upload a new episode of E&P Reports. I am just thrilled to get two very, very busy gentlemen to set aside some quick time for us to chat about nonprofit journalism. First of all, of course, Stewart Bainum Jr., you are the chairman of Choice Hotels International. You're also the chairman and founder of the Venetoulis Institute for Local Journalism. Welcome, sir. We're honored to have you on board.
Well, thank you. Can I call you Mike, by the way?
You can call me Mike. You can call me Shirley. You can call me whatever you want. Mike it is.
Thanks, Shirley.
And we have Imtiaz Patel. You are CEO of the same Institute for Nonprofit Journalism. Imtiaz, I could talk to you for hours because I checked out your background. You started off in banking, and then you went into consulting ailing businesses, but somehow you had this third stage of your career where you got into news publishing through the Wall Street Journal. Am I correct, sir?
That's absolutely right. You know, it took me a while to figure out what I loved, and news was it.
And this is it, this industry, this wacky. Well, we're going to dive into nonprofit journalism. We're going to talk about Baltimore. We're going to talk about the new Baltimore Banner on the backside of this message.
This episode of E&P Reports is sponsored by IQ Audience Plus by Town News. Consumer revenue has never been more important. Digital leaders at media organizations worldwide are asking the same question. How do we accelerate the growth of consumer revenue? Traditional one-size-fits-all paywalls aren't the answer. They're blunt instruments that treat all visitors the same way, costing you money. IQ Audience Plus by Town News is a smart, dynamic metering solution that empowers you to maximize revenue by identifying key audiences, seeding engagement, and growing membership and subscriptions. Ready to supercharge your consumer revenue, grow engagement, and bolster your advertising income? Visit townnews.com/EP today to learn more about IQ Audience Plus by Town News.
First question is for Stewart. Stewart, we all know the story. Our industry was almost like clutching, hoping that you were going to pull off the miracle of saving Tribune from Alden Capitol. E&P was behind it. We saw you as the savior to take this company over. We were watching it all a little over a year ago, and the deal fell through. We all know that. You just couldn't quite get it to all the blocks. So Alden got the paper you were looking for, which was the Baltimore Sun. So the first question is, what the heck are you up to? Why did you want to enter this industry? It's crazy. It's wacky. We've got content being exploited by Google and Facebook. The local advertising revenue is shrinking. Everybody, you must have had some advisors saying, stay away. Why the Sun? And what was your mission and passion, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I think basically my family has tried to focus on philanthropic opportunities and philanthropic investments where the upside is really very, very significant, but which are really underfunded, where there's not a lot of capital because the risk is high. And so this I got to thinking in May of 2020 about local news. And that's just the case with local news. People, it's dramatically underfunded, but the upside is huge because, as I've said before, I mean, it's probably the most important industry in terms of creating and sustaining a healthy, functioning democracy. So that's what got me to focus on local news. And then the other piece of it is that I was a member of the Maryland General Assembly back between 1979 and 1987, and during that period, it's a 90-day session, so it's a citizen legislature, and during that period, we had 6 vibrant daily newspapers with 7 or 8 full-time journalists in Annapolis covering the Maryland General Assembly, and yet there was still a lot of soft and hard corruption in the General Assembly during those 8 years. And now there's only 2 newspapers and covering Annapolis instead of 6. And they have, about a third of the number of reporters those papers had back then. You had the Washington Star, the Washington Post, the Baltimore News American, the Evening Sun, the Morning Sun, and the Annapolis Capital Gazette. So that's kind of the motivation and what got me focused on all this. Plus, I was looking for a philanthropic investment that would leverage some of all the mistakes I've made in business throughout the years, and hopefully apply some lessons learned.
Now, Imtiaz, you were part of that. You were working here with Stewart on this acquisition. Imtiaz, your background has mostly been with established newspaper brands. You helped out the Enquirer, correct? The Lenfest right. As well. When this deal fell through, did you look at Stewart and say, okay, we're done? Or did you say, wait a second, we can actually go into the 30th largest market in the United States and launch a brand new brand in a market like that? I mean, where was your head at when you couldn't take over the existing brand?
Well, it was really disappointing in a way not to get the Sun, because, if you think about the Baltimore Sun, it has such a proud heritage. And so many great journalists have walked through those rooms. Means they used to have over 400 journalists not that long ago. And we were really hoping we could kind of reestablish and rebuild it to some degree to the glory it had, right? By investing in it and bringing in more journalists and really thinking about the future of a newsroom. But the challenge always was that we weren't doing it because it's the Sun. We were doing it because we were worried about a news desert and how can a community be served without a strong, vibrant local news organization. So despite the fact that we didn't get the Sun, the problem still remained, and the problem was likely to get worse under ownership from a hedge fund. They're going to gut the newsroom at a faster rate. So the way we looked at it, and Stewart was the one really pushing for this and was the impetus behind this, is we said, well, how do we solve for this problem? And that's what energized us. Maybe we're both a little foolish in that we didn't worry about failure, but really thinking about what could be if we pull this off. And so what is the right model?
Our journeys are in a way similar. I spent 22 years as an industry media consultant on the revenue side of the newspaper industry worldwide, and I could have retired, and then the deal for E&P, a 140-year-old brand, you guys were going after a 184-year-old brand, was brought to me. And I kept thinking about, that Warren Buffett, I'm sure I'm misquoting it, you have to breathe life into that smoldering cigar butt or whatever it was. I said, I can turn this brand around. It had an existing audience. It had decent open rates on an email database, a decent social media following. I don't think I would have entered this industry obliquely as a startup. I was able to take the brand, and in 3 years now, I'm very proud of it. We've tripled the audience and revenue. You have met with Ken Doctor. On this very program, Ken Doctor released the Lookout Local model. And I yelled at him and said, why aren't you going into an existing brand with this? His exact words were, and he said it, I have it on tape, we wanted a new culture. We wanted to go out fresh. Is some of that in your mission now, even though you are acquiring great reporters from the Sun? The cover story of our issue is all about the life you have with this brand new energy in Baltimore. So Stewart, I'll bring it up to you. Are you kind of glad now the deal fell through? I mean, I have to ask this question.
Yeah, there's pros and cons of taking over a legacy paper, and there's pros and cons to starting up, going with a completely new startup. I mean, a major disadvantage of taking over a legacy paper is you have to change the culture, a culture embedded for the previous 184 years. It's evolved over time, but still is there, and change that culture to a digital first culture. And that would have been a challenge. And we recognize that. We think it's possible to do. We thought it was possible to do and still do, but not without quite a bit of brain damage along the way. Now, but the advantage was you start with a host of subscribers, digital and some print subscribers too, if we bought the Sun. And startups are a challenge, but but we're fully committed to this. And we started working on a business plan for this startup in March of 20, when we still thought we had a shot at buying all of Tribune Publishing Company.
I did not know that. You had a plan B in your brain already when you were going full force. I mean, you were working hard to get Tribune. You were bringing in foreign investment. You needed to find someone to take over the Chicago Tribune, right? You had all these, little balls in the air you were trying to pull off. You guys still spent time on the plan B. You were that committed to going forward.
Yeah, Ted Venetoulis and Imtiaz, and we had a working group working on it, and we met, I don't know, a couple times a week, I guess, Imtiaz, even during that period. And and so that's when this started percolating, the Baltimore Banner.
Okay, now the Banner itself is an interesting model, and we again our May cover story is just talks to a lot of the staff and all the energy. You're doing the exact opposite of what many media companies are trying to do today. I have E&P completely, totally outsourced. We have no office. Everybody's all over the world. I have a designer, believe it or not, working for me in Turkey who lives on US time. I am doing everything I can to pump as much money I can into my newsroom. You are leasing some of the top, most beautiful MTS. Look at that view behind you. You are in incredible office space. You're requiring your journalists to be there in Baltimore. I read a quote from you. Got an amazing editor out of the Los Angeles Times who said, "I want the energy of the newsroom when everyone now is moving in another direction." Imtiaz, is this okay? I mean, this is money, right? You're putting up some cash for this.
Well, I think what we have to do is spend the money in the right places, right? So I want to clarify one thing about our office space. Our office space, we got this incredible deal, and it's a model where our landlord actually did the build out, and we've got the best rent we could. I actually looked at 12 locations, and this was the best. So while the office looks beautiful and it's in a great location, you won't believe it, but we spent a lot less money than we would have in a location that probably didn't look as nice. So that's not where we wanted to spend the money, but being in the office is really, really important. The buzz is really important. It means we're a startup and we're trying to build a very specific type of culture. We're all in this together to really serve our mission at the end of the day. Everyone here, business side, newsroom side, is so mission driven, and we get energy from each other around this. And the transparency that we're building into the culture and those conversations we have, we don't even have really a hallway. All the executives sit out in the open with the team.
So we
can share that communication and talk to each other and share ideas. So that's what we want, and that's why it's important to be in the office.
Stewart, how involved are you going to be in this? Jeff Bezos, obviously, you're at with the Post. You got John Henry, has the Globe now. Sheldon, and you're entering a league of philanthropist, millionaires. Are you going to be getting on the phone here with Imtiaz and saying, "I don't want that editorial. I want you to do"? I mean, where is your head at when it comes to the influence that you're going to have in this marketplace? If I may ask.
No, please. I am not in the league with those guys you mentioned.
Okay.
Not at all. But no, I have a day job. I'm focused still on my day job, which I enjoy and get a lot of pleasure from. I'm the chairman of the board. Imtiaz is the CEO. We have a policy that any member of the board, including me, has absolutely no influence over what goes on in the newsroom in terms of what is published and what isn't. So there's total independence. And that I wouldn't have it any other way. And I told the team 3 weeks ago when I met with roughly 40 at the headquarters that, if there's some, not that there ever would be, but maybe there's some reason to do an investigation of Bainum or one of his businesses. And I don't want to have a heads up on it. I mean, it's totally up to the newsroom. And if we don't do this that way, we're just not going to have the credibility required to bring the community in and to sell subscriptions. Now, the biggest problem with that office space is that everybody thinks it's expensive. but it's a hell of a bargain. I'm a real estate guy for the last 45 years. It's a hell of a bargain. Imtiaz did a great job. We looked at, like you said, 12 different options. We got free furniture thrown in,
Wow.
free terminals, et cetera, et cetera. And it was a building that was mostly empty because of COVID. It had short-term leases, and the renters, when COVID started, said, "The hell with it. I'm not going to renew." So it's a hell of an opportunity. It just happened to be on the waterfront. So yeah, we like it.
I bet you do.
We're staying there. And the other thing is, I mean, Mike, every and we don't have all the answers, certainly, and we're experimenting, but we like the fact that, as Imtiaz said, that the reporters and the editors and the photographers are all in the same room, and ideas come from collaboration, and story ideas come from collaboration.
I have been hearing more and more that people are missing camaraderie when it comes to creativity aspect of our industry. I mean, you can chase a story from any location with your laptop, but when you want to discuss the nuances of it, does Zoom really give you everything you need in order to do that? So you're going to actually bring people back into a workplace. You're going to infuse energy into the team. Is it true that you're giving $2,000 per employee for them to find some joy in life? Am I saying that right, Imtiaz? I mean, what is that policy?
Yeah, so we've created a tuition reimbursement policy that is really centered around personal growth, so people can use it either for something editorial or something news related, or just something that's personal growth related, and we will pay $2,000 a year for that.
That's amazing. Imtiaz, now let's get into your story. The banking industry, business consulting, I mean, obviously amazing background. You found a love for news publishing. How did that strike you? Where did that come from at the Wall Street Journal? When did you say, I'm home, this is where I want to be?
You know, what it was is, so I think of my career as kind of three big chunks, right? I got the financial, and all those three things go together to make me who I am today. And I feel like are helping me in this role. The first bit was the banking, and it gives me a very strong appreciation for numbers. I mean, I love numbers. Then I did the consulting thing, which is really thinking about how do you frame a problem and how do you come up with solutions. And then it was the operating experience, like how do you actually develop a strategy and execute to get it all the way through and deliver results. So this is the culmination of those three things. Now, I used to do mainly work in retail. My family was in the retail business, so I had an affinity for retail. But all you're doing is really getting people to buy more stuff at the end of the day. And I got pleasure out of my ideas working. But when I worked for the Journal, and I really felt like this is something that is so critical, and a strong functioning news industry is so critical for a functioning economy, for a functioning democracy. I've got real value from that. And that's why I love this industry. I see it as so critical, and there's so many problems in the industry. And solving problems, I like solving problems, and that's what attracts me to this industry.
We only have about 8 minutes left, and that's going to be the section I want to spend the final part of our journey on. And I'll go back to Stewart on this, because thank you for that great segue, Vanna. We're going to turn that letter now, because Stewart, how do you feel about today's media industry? Now that you are entering it boldly, you put $50 million of your own money up into this. You are making a statement. You are going to be generating news that will likely not just be local, although I know your commitments to Baltimore, but maybe making a national influence. Where is the news industry today? And if you could wave that magic wand, Stewart, where would you like to see it in 5 years?
Well, I mean, there's just a dearth of local news. I mean, there's some very well-run and national and international news organizations, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, the Financial Times, the Guardian, right, and so forth. So, I mean, I think that's pretty well covered, national and international. But what's important to people living locally is the local news. I mean, how can people govern themselves if they don't know what's going on in their own community? And how can there not be polarization when the stories on one side of town aren't being shared with folks on the other side of town. Only if those stories are shared can there be empathy and understanding. And there's so many stories in Baltimore that aren't being told. So that's the opportunity, and that's my concern. And this is the case around the country. And if we can find a sustainable business model at scale in the greater Baltimore area, that model can be replicated in communities in all 50 states. And that would be a grand slam.
Now, my Baltimore may be different than your Baltimore. If I were living, remember, I'm a Philly boy. I went to GW, so I know the corridor very, very well.
Right.
And I've been to the city many, many, many times. But if I lived in a specific neighborhood, maybe this is a question for Imtiaz. How hyper local are you going to be? Are you going to be covering this as a regional? May I ask your strategy? Or are you going to try to embed yourself in the various different cultures and neighborhoods of the communities you serve, sir?
I think it's really important that we get ourselves embedded.
Okay.
And so we're going to initially cover the city and the Baltimore County, and then we're going to progressively add the surrounding counties and hopefully eventually move statewide. But that's a longer term play. But initially, we want to get really, really embedded in the fabric of different communities. And we always talk about, right, we're not here for one or two communities, and we're not here just for the communities who can buy a subscription. We are here to serve all the communities. And one of the things we're taking a leaf out of Block Club Chicago's approach.
I was about to mention them. It's on my notes. We just had them on this program a couple of weeks ago, Block Club. Yeah.
I love what they're doing. They're doing a great job. So we're going to not only have beat coverage, but we're also going to put people in different neighborhoods, reporters in different neighborhoods. And over time, we'll continue to expand that. Now, what we need to do is do a good job of really connecting with people in the different communities and really understanding what they need and how can we bring news and content and information to them. So one of the things we will be doing, two things we're going to do is, one of them is provide free access to certain communities, despite the fact that we have a paywall. So marginalized communities who couldn't necessarily afford a subscription, we will give them free access to all content. Wow. Number one. Number two is they may still not come to our site, right? But what we want to do is also take journalists and editors into communities, community centers, libraries, schools, and so on, and bring information to them, like solutions to them, basically things they need to know, things that they can help them in their daily lives. So this is about us serving all the different communities in Baltimore and the surrounding areas.
It sounds like you took that out of the Ken Doctor book, where he said that the paper has to do more than just report. It has to embed itself in it and find the solutions for the. And again, I know I'm misquoting. Stewart, how important is investigative journalism going to be to you? Because sometimes you're paying a team. I mean, that was one of the things I really wanted to step up at E&P. We will have people we're paying chase a story for 3 months if we have to, before we get it out there, to monetize. When I say monetize, I mean get those critical page views and eyeballs on it. Are you guys going to commit to that as well and really get into the weeds on that, or get into?
Yeah. I mean, that's part of our mission. Is to our mission really. The bottom line is to make the lives of the people of Baltimore help the people of Baltimore improve their lives. Part of that is only part of it, but an important part is holding our leaders to account in the community, and also so that's to a large extent investigative reporting, but also investigative reporting can uncover important stories that are very positive about things that are going on in the community, and also highlight solutions for some of the critical challenges that urban America faces, and Baltimore is a microcosm of urban America.
It's actually one of the most beautiful and it's exciting cities that gets a bad rap all the time for some reason by outsiders. Although I was brought up in Philadelphia, where the favorite expression was, Philadelphia is not as bad as Philadelphians say it is. But I think people from Baltimore have a love and a passion for their city, but others tend to look at it in a completely different light. I'm hoping, if I may put my 2 cents in, that you bring Baltimore's polish back. Does that make sense? So the world looks at it as what it really is. A great culture.
It has a lot of polish already that needs to be talked about and written about and disclosed.
I have one question I'm supposed to ask you, because Gretchen Peck, our managing editor, who embedded herself in your team for 6 weeks to learn, she said, "What's the start date?" No one will tell her. Are you going to reveal it here on this very program, gentlemen? Nah, no. You can't shake your head, because 3/4 of my audience is audio only there. And you say no start date.
No, we're not. It's still late spring, early summer.
Okay, that's all you can tell us now. That means it's right around the corner. I'm hoping it's a memorable day. It's some incredible day. You're building an email database as we speak, correct? You have people.
That's right.
And your web address, sir, is?
www.thebaltimorebanner.com.
There you go. Gentlemen, I know you're busy. Both of your assistants warned me that I had to hold this to 30 minutes. I think you both have appointments. I'm going to make sure you both get copies of our magazine every month, and we are going to follow this story after the launch and for many, many, many months, and I'm sure years to come. Thank you, gentlemen.
And Mike, last comment, if you don't mind. I mean, we want to encourage everyone listening to sign up, to sign up to receive our free newsletters.
Yes.
Okay, and they just go to our website.
I have a feeling with the buzz you're getting in the industry, Stewart, everybody's already doing that. There's a lot of eyes within our narrow industry watching. My hope is that the buzz you're getting on the streets in Baltimore will help build that audience as quick as well. That's the goal, I'm sure.
You bet.
All right, take care, gentlemen.
Mike, thank you so much.
Bye.